I'm located in Burnsville, which is like 35 minutes north of Asheville. Um, and yeah, I do sell queens, nukes. I don't sell packages. I'm gonna start making them this year, but more for myself. And I've got a friend, I've got like helpers that help me. I've got one that lives in, her parents live in Waynesville, Sarah Blackburn, her dad's Wayne Blackburn. And so she helps me a lot, and she'll take queens down that way for me to and meet up with you guys. I also work with KT. She's got the orchard and she sends a lot of people my way. And this year I should be um, I think I'll be giving some to Honey in the Hive as needed, and hopefully Hooper's Creek again. I haven't talked to them yet, but that worked out really well. So I try to make it more accessible to you guys down south. Um, and you can always come here and check out my operation and come pick up a queen, and we can have fun and chat. Um, so that's kind of what I do for, I'm trying to do bees for a business. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've got a 7-year-old, and this is something I can do from home. I tell everybody I won't, you're not going to see me during the spring. I kind of disappear, and they have to, my partner takes over, and my mom pitches in, and I power out. And it really works well for me and for us. And I'm really grateful for it. And I think that opportunity is available to a lot of people, not just me. There's a big market for bees if you can figure out how to make them. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. If you guys need to chime in, go ahead. If for any reason I lose you, I'll probably just have everybody shut off whatever they're doing on the internet, reset, and I'll be right back. Bill, if you wouldn't mind hitting record. Oh, I see it's already recording. Awesome. And what else? I would suggest opening the chat box, because my presentation tonight is like show and tell, and then I'm also going to throw a bunch of links in the chat box as I go. So if you can figure out that little button on the bottom, open the chat, and you can get the links that I throw at you. So what else? I'm a journeyman beekeeper through the Master Beekeeper program. I'm working towards my Master Beekeeper. I produce queens. This year I'm going to shorten my season. It's going to be from, probably have them available mid-April. I've got some orders to fill before then. And then come end of June, I'm going to shut down. So April, May, all of June. And then I'm going to basically just stop, because I want to take better care of my own bees, as far as mite management and all that. And so I'm going to shorten my own season so I can take care of that other half of the season. Yeah, so forgive me if I'm a little weird and eclectic. Sometimes I say weird things. I'm half Colombian. I speak Spanish. I was raised in South Florida, so that's probably a part of it. I love right now, like I love hip hop and traveling and all things multicultural. There's so many different bees all around the world. And it's just incredible how diverse this world is. And so that's kind of what makes me happy in life too. So the first part of my presentation is for like the newest of new beginners, people who haven't had bees yet. I'm going to give you some rundown of the equipment, because a lot of times people write me and they think they can just buy a queen, and no, you need bees too. Like there's a lot of things that you don't know. So I'm going to try to hit those things as best I can for you, just to help make things make sense. I have a really silly rap, and I'm going to embarrass myself right off the bat just so I can get over with. And it's I kind of stole it from, I think it was Chappelle's show. So it goes like this. READABBO. Okay. Read a book. Read a bee book. Not a Facebook page, not a magazine. Read a book. That's it. It's over. Okay. So yeah, it's really important. Like, I think I have it on my website. Like, please just read a book. Go to the library, check out all the books. And, you know, once you read one, it's the rest of them become easier to read. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. You want a clear picture. So when people are talking to you, you know what they're talking about. It's not really fair to have someone explain to you the entire book. So yeah, just please read a book. And I know most of you guys are past that. And when you pick out your books, try to look for books that were written after the year 2000. You know, stuff prior to that is still pertinent, but the Varroa mite came in 85. It's something everybody tries to ignore at first, but it's what's going to kill your bees, most likely 90% of the time. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And they're always fighting you, like the pressure of the diseases that they're giving the mites. I mean, they're giving the bees. So, but get a book that was written after 2000. So that way, at least it mentions mites and you can learn about the physiology of it and what they're doing to the bees. And try not to ignore it as much as you want to, because that's something I did in the first few years. And you know, you could be more successful by managing that better. Okay, so you want to get your stuff well in advance, your equipment. You'll find that a lot of these bee suppliers, if you order it when you need it, it's going to take a long time. And now they have like new things where it's like you can pay $25 to get to the front of the line and things like that. And it's just order your equipment well in advance, so you're not paying extra. You're not having to use other stuff or wait and not have what you need when you need it. And I'll go over what you need. If you already have your equipment or you inherited some equipment, now's the time obviously to paint it. You can stain it. There are people who dip it. I don't know. I haven't done that. Don't ask me. You can use, remember to always use wood glue in your joints, like something you kind of forget. But when you're building your equipment, assembling it, remember your wood glue. When you're doing your frames, just buy yourself a thing of wood glue now. So yeah, now's the time to make repairs. My friend Sam Comfort, he's going to be one of the speakers at the state conference in March. He's the one that designs his own equipment, his box hives. He taught me a little tip. He's like, you can use caulking. Basically, he says any kind of caulking, and I'm sure, you know, there's going to be caveats to it, but he says once it dries, it's fine. The bees, you know, they ignore it. So like if you got a hole in something or a crack or things don't line, you know, you can always just use some caulking. Okay, so I'm gonna get into a list of the basic equipment. And this will be good for Seth so you can see what you have and what you need. And I'm gonna unplug here. If for any reason the audio doesn't work good, just let me know. Okay. So you're gonna want a good veil. Obviously, this one's from Brushy Mountain, which they're not in business anymore, but it's my favorite. It's got a nice veil that it doesn't flap down, and I've lived in this thing. And I have to wash it a couple times a year. And then this invention, these little suspenders, was from my mentor Lee Knott. These I got for like $5 on Amazon, and it makes it so when I guess I could throw it on. I just pull them down, and it's awesome. And then I just live in it. I just take it off, and it's always on my back. But a lot of you are going to have a jacket, a suit, and that's totally okay. And it's actually more recommended for you if you're just starting out. You know, you want to feel safe, you want to feel comfortable. So find yourself a nice jacket or suit or veil attached to the jacket. You know, if you're just starting out, you're not living in this like I am. The longer you do it, the less gear you're going to be wearing, because the more you get comfortable with the bees, the more you learn that dance where you're not going to breathe on top of them and smash them. And, you know, so just suit yourself up properly so you're comfortable and that you can be relaxed and you can work slowly and comfortably. So you want good protection. Gloves, those lambskin gloves is what I started with, but I think now I would probably recommend just like those the vinyl gloves. I'm allergic to latex, but any little gloves work. But the vinyl latex ones are nice because it's like your hands. So you can feel that bee against your finger. And that's when you know you need to back off a little bit so you don't kill that bee and crush that bee. And because once you crush that bee, the pheromones are released and then the anger erupts. So the less bees you squish, the slower you go, the more comfortable you are, the better. So good equipment's good, is important. The gloves, those latex gloves are really great. They can sting you through the gloves, but less frequently. But if you really just can't get stung, then go for, bigger gloves. It's whatever works for you. There's a hive tool. I wish I could find I'm literally down to one hive tool right now. But I'm going to link this hive tool. It is the most amazing hive tool. You can get it for less than 20 bucks. It's made by Jarrow. It's a knife company. You can get it on Amazon. If you have a bee friend, buy them. This is the best gift ever. It's a 7.5-inch hive tool. So it fits in your hand beautifully. Like it's just a part of your hand. It's super sharp when you first get it. Like you will end up cutting yourself at the beginning. Like you could shave your face with it. It is so sharp when you first get it, but it fits so beautifully into every crack, every nook and cranny. It's just like an extension of your hand. If you get these hive tools that are like fat, that they were made out of this fat piece of metal and then they're painted with some fat paint. I mean, I have my husband like grind those down for me so I can get a nicer, thinner, something that actually gets in there and works with you. Okay, smoker, you're gonna need. I like one with like a nice big top that comes off easier. The smaller it is, the harder it gets once it gets gummed up. Also cleaning it helps. My favorite fuel for starting out, learning to light a smoker takes time. You can choose when you want to take on that endeavor, but you can also just use egg cartons are the best fuel. Like you just take a piece, light it, and it'll last until it burns out, and it goes pretty slow, and it's like you're a professional. Cardboard works, but not as well. You gotta learn how to tighten it. You'll find what kind of fuel works for you. Leaves, whatever's out there. A lot of times, you get to play with it. It's like a way to play with fire. But starting out, if you just want to get in the bees and you don't want to waste a bunch of time, just save your egg cartons. You can also buy pellets and all kinds of other things. The pellets will last you 5 minutes. What else? I really recommend getting yourself a windproof lighter, a torch lighter. You can get like a pack of 5 of these on Amazon for not that much. I hate to plug Amazon all the time. And they're invaluable. When you're fighting with the wind and you're trying to light a smoker, it's like, come on, let me just light this thing. And my favorite is this tool belt. I live in this thing. Like, this is how I don't lose my hive tools for the most part. It just lives on me, and then everything I need, it's right there. I'm not looking for it. I didn't leave it on the floor somewhere. So I would say I got for now it's like 15 bucks. It's just Dickies. You can get a better brand if you want, but this one's been perfect. Feeder. So I haven't shown you the equipment yet. I probably should have shown you that, but maybe I will. I'm going to skip to the equipment and then I'll get back into what else do I, and then I'll show you the feeder when I do the equipment. I'll show you just everything I brought. Okay. So you have a beehive. I'm going to show you the parts. Obviously, there's different kinds of beehives. There's a top bar hive. And, if you decide to take that on, you're going to obviously be doing a lot of research because that's a whole nother thing. It's not the standard is what I mean. The Langstroth equipment, this is the standard of beekeeping. And this is what most of your books and everything are based around. So you're going to want a top. This is a telescoping top. telescoping means just it has this rim so it can't like slide off in any direction, and they're a little heavier. You still need a little weight on top sometimes. Then you have your inner cover, and this one has the what's this whole called? Forget, but you can even put like when this is on there, you can even put like a jar of syrup on top and another box to feed your bees. So this is it's a pretty nice piece of equipment. Also in the winter time, this goes kind of to what you were asking, Seth. For the moisture, I just put dry sugar on top. It's called the mountain camp method. For me, it's the simplest way to feed bees in an emergency situation in the winter. And you know, I can just lift this top without opening the entire beehive and see on top of this if they have food, because they come up through this hole and eat the food, the sugar. And then the moisture is wicked up by the sugar. It works as a desiccant, and it keeps all that moisture that comes up from the heat from the bees inside. It just, you know, it helps soften that sugar for them to eat. So it also helps them go through their supplies a little slower. And then you have different size boxes. So when you buy bees, you can buy, most of the time it's a 5-frame, you get 5 frames, and it's called deep, is this length here. It's like 9 and some odd inches. And then the box is a little bit bigger that it sits in. So this is considered a deep. So when you buy your bees, if it's your first nuke, it's gonna be 5 of these with bees and food and brood that you're gonna install into your equipment, your 10-frame, 8-frame equipment. This is 10-frame equipment. I can fit 10 of these inside here. You know, they also sell 8-frame, and then some people only use mediums. That's all gonna be up to you. Here's the medium. So some people, like I said, only use mediums if they don't want to like lift very much weight. And then here's your medium frame. And this is like, I think this frames are like 5 and some odd inches or 6. And then there's another size that's a shallow, which is like 1 inch shorter. And some people use that for honey, just to have even less weight to have to lift. Because when these things are full of honey, they get pretty heavy, and a deep full of honey is very heavy. So that's the equipment, and I mean that's the boxes. This is a lot of times how I do a lot of my feeding. This is, you know, standard North Carolina equipment, mason jar, and you use your old canning jars and put some holes in them. And like I said, you could do that and put it on your inner cover and feed them that way. You gotta put another box on top, but that's a really cheap, easy way to feed. I'm gonna go show you a little bit more of equipment and tools. There's a little bit of intermediate stuff in here for you guys that you might want to consider this year, including into your repertoire. I'm not a big fan of these. Occasionally you have to use it, but the bees just like, they attack it. There's a better option I discovered. Turkey feather. The bees don't attack this the way that they do this. This is like horsehair. This is something different. This is something I used a lot in the beginning when I didn't know how to light a smoker. And it's just an easy way to calm bees. It's sugar syrup. It's not Dr. Meyer's countertop spray. It's sugar syrup. It's just your simple syrup. And you can have a little bit of the honeybee healthy in it if you want. It'll prevent it from spoiling. And if I open a hive and they're kind of like come out or whatnot, I might just spritz them with this, and it just keeps them occupied. They'll be cleaning themselves off and filling up their tummies instead of coming at you. It doesn't work as well as smoke. Actually, it kind of does. It's just it's up to you. But there are times when this will not work. You gotta have smoke. You're also going to want in your beekeeping supplies is a way to monitor your varroa mites. And this is standard beekeeping equipment. This is 1/8" hardware cloth. It's what they use on the bottom of the screens. Bees can't get through it. So you're going to fill this with bees and put powdered sugar or alcohol. And this is how you're going to test to find out how many mites are in your colony. And I would say this is the first thing you need to learn. I was taught how to do this by a first-year beekeeper in my like 5th year. So yeah, it's kind of one of the first things you should learn is how to sample your bees. And I would recommend when you buy your brand new bees from anybody, do this, you know, find out how many mites are on those bees that you just bought. You know, you can find out if they treated or not, and how or when, or if they monitored. But yeah, just know what you're working with when you buy it. Know what you just bought. If you have a high mite count, you might need to treat the bees that you just bought. Or take them back. I don't know. It's up to you. And then if you're like getting ready, if you're starting to get more comfortable and you want to start touching your queens and stuff, you can get some kind of a queen clip, or you know, these things will help you start getting comfortable to where you start handling them more by hand. And they all have drawbacks, that's for sure. Queen clip, a queen can get stuck in between, but it's a really nice, easy way to just take her and, you know, make sure she's safe. If she gets out, that's another story. Like, you know, there can always be problems if it's not perfect. These are cool if they're kind of mesh on top. This one I can't mark a queen with, but basically you stick her in there, push the pump up, get her lined up, and then you can mark her. But like I said, this plastic top makes it so I have to have a real fine marker. This is a one-handed queen catcher. It's pretty awesome. I didn't like it at first until I realized how to use it. It does have drawbacks. So you put it on the queen, and then you push this, it's like a, so here you push this, and it catches her in there. So you put this on her, and then that closes her in, and then you push this up. And what I didn't like it was because she could still move around, but you got to click it, and that secures her. But you got to make sure she's lined up. And I have had queens have a seizure after hitting that top part. So they were fine after they had, you know, came back too, but you know, it slows things down when you got to deal with a queen who's having a heart attack. But this is how you start getting used to it. I mean, this is what's available. Okay, I've only got a few more pieces of equipment, and then we'll get into spring stuff. This is a feeder. These I keep inside of all my beehives all year round. And then this is a piece of 1/4" hardware cloth that I use as a ladder, so the bees can climb up and not drown. You can also use like sticks and stuff, but I found with the organic matter, the beetles seem to be able to hide under it more, and you'll fill this up with sugar syrup one day, and there'll be a bunch of beetle larvae on top, which you can then scoop out, but it's kind of gross and it's not ideal. So you want to have like a proper ladder that's not like just a bunch of leaves or something. And yeah, this stays inside so instead of having 10 frames, I have 9 plus this feeder, and it just lives inside the box. So anytime I need to feed them, I feed them. And you could even put dry sugar in it. I wouldn't leave wet syrup in it over winter. It's a bad idea. And then you're also going to need frames. That seems to be like the last thing. A lot of people, when they buy nukes from me, comes with 5 frames, you know, with bees and brood. They end up needing 5 more, and which is fine. I have a lot of frames. If anybody does come by for anything, I have tons of frames. I have tons of foundation, and I have more feeders. So those are 3 things that if anybody needs and they come to me for any reason, I can hook you up with those. Okay. So, oh, there's different kinds of foundation. There's plastic. These are both plastic. This one is Acorn brand. It's waxed. These are the White Cell from Man Lake, and you can buy them waxed. I don't. You can wax them yourself. I don't. A lot of people have problems with these. I hear that if you live where, like in Hendersonville or stuff where it's hotter, for some reason it's harder to get them to accept it. You can spray it down with sugar syrup, so they'll clean it and then get their smells on it, and that might help them start working it. I like plastic foundation. I don't care for plastic, but it just, I like the uniformity of it. When I go to sell something and the comb is all drawn out beautifully and it's all uniform, as a beginner, that's really helpful for you to see what, uniformity looks like. And then you can see the brood pattern easier. You can, you don't have as much, like, you won't have a patch of drone brood, let's just say, in the middle, which is really not cool because you're always going to end up with drones then right there in your hive, a higher population than you need. You might, where you could have had worker bees instead. So this pattern helps guide them. You can buy wax also. Wax is pricier. And if you're new and you stick a bunch of wax in there, the bees are most likely going to start chewing it and eating it, unless they're on a honey flow or they've got plenty of food. They're going to start manipulating that wax how they want to, and they're going to start using it in different places. So that also makes it so the hive stays the way it's supposed to. You can also use no foundation. And, when I started out, I did everything as cheaply as possible. I had a veil. My veil was screen material, with screen, porch screen, around a hat pinned to it. But if you decide to go no foundation, you probably still want to use a strip of wax if you can. That helps to guide them straight. And you want to, like, let's say you buy a nuke and you got 5 of these. I would drop your no foundation one in, like, in between 2 perfectly drawn combs, so that they will mirror what they're doing, what's already there, instead of just giving you a bunch of drum comb. Okay. There's one more piece of equipment, and it's an intermediate piece of equipment. You're not going to use it your first year. But if you want to be successful and not have to always buy bees, you're going to have to learn to make your own queens and splits and not be afraid to do so. And this piece of equipment I'm going to show you makes it so you can lose less if you mess something up. And it's just like this awesome reality TV show happening in your bee yard. So this is called the Queen Castle, and or Queen Hotel. If you, Datant sells this one for like $45, and it's worth what it'll pay for itself like first time you use it. So it's a full bee. It's a deep beehive. It's hard to find them in mediums. The bottom, it's divided into 4 compartments, and each compartment holds 2 frames. Mine holds 2 frames each. If you get one that's divided into 3, it'll hold 3 frames each. So this holds 8 frames. The other version will hold 9 divided by 3. There's dividers here so the bees can't get over. Each one's a separate colony. And then you've got an entrance here for each compartment somewhere. Oh, you can't see it. Right there. Right there. And so when you have swarm cells, things like that, you can stick them in here, shake some extra bees in there, maybe throw some grass in there so that it takes them longer and they'll reorient a little better. If you're doing it in your own yard, you are going to lose bees. So you got to keep an eye on that. And yeah, now you got another queen, right? You got up to 4 more queens if you got 4 queen cells. So, and then each little compartment you can grow into your own new beehive. So that's a really good way to grow your apiary. this spring, this April, when the bees want to start swarming, and you find all those queen cells. Okay, I think that's it for the equipment. Plug back in. Okay. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, a few more things that you're going to want to get yourself. A pack of, buy yourself a whole pack of paint markers. Don't just get like, bye Seth, we're recording it. We can send you a link if we have to. Yeah, get yourself a whole pack of paint markers. Don't buy the one I forget the brand. Don't buy one paint marker for $7 or $9. Get the whole pack for 10 bucks, you know? And get all the colors. Get, will you raise good bees? So you need, well, it doesn't matter, but those are the colors: white, yellow, red, green, blue, that for marking queens. But I use them also for writing on my lids. You don't have to write directly on your lid. You can, another thing you're gonna want is duct tape. I put duct tape sometimes and I'll write like who the queen is or the number of the hive. I write all my mite counts, everything on my lids. So my history is right there for that beehive. I don't have to go look for a book. I didn't leave my notes out in the rain. It's right there on the lid. So pack of paint markers. I think that's it. Okay. So when you're going to buy bees, you have a few options. Hopefully Seth is still here. You can buy a nuke, which is 5 frames, like I showed you, with the comb drawn out of, usually it's about 3 frames of brood. And you know, those will be some honey on the edges and stuff. And then 2 frames of food. Sometimes there'll be like a little bit of room in a corner somewhere for them to like finish drawing, but it should be pretty well drawn out and full. Sometimes I leave a little room for the queen to lay, you know, just so she doesn't swarm on you as soon as you get her home. And it's a tricky balance, these nukes, giving you enough that you're happy and they'll grow, but not so much that they're going to swarm immediately. Because sometimes when you're a new beekeeper, you stick these 5 frames in with 5 undrawn frames, and all they have to work is the 5 that you bought. Those 5 that are undrawn, they can't do anything with until they're drawn out. So you're really, you know, they'll swarm in that little 5. They don't have more comb. So it's kind of like getting them in there, you know, feed them slowly, let them draw out, let them grow, and they'll expand. So you can buy 5 frames. You're going to want to know if you want a deep or a medium. Most people only sell deeps. I do have mediums. Or if you have like a dead out and you already have all that comb, or you have like a top bar hive and you're trying to figure out how to get bees in there, you're going to buy what's called a package. It's a box, a screen box with 3 pounds of bees generally, and then it'll have a queen dangling inside. And you're going to have to dump those bees in and install that queen. But that's how you do it for, you know, and they're generally a little cheaper because you don't have the frames and the comb. Okay, so that's what that's the beginner part of my talk. And now we're gonna get a little more nitty gritty. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So where I am, we're covered in snow. So today I went through, and I would suggest you guys do this if you haven't already, and clear the snow. Well, you don't have as much as I do, but clear the snow off the front, stick a little stick in and scoop out some bees to make sure that entrance isn't jammed up and clogged. Because if they can't get out, you got a problem. If there's too many dead bees at the entrance, the whole hive's going to collapse, and the CO2 is going to go up, and you just get in there, clean them out, and that'll prevent that problem. You can, I mean, I pop my lids now on warm days, and kind of just to assess the cluster size and the food stores. The ones that are booming right now, I put a star on top. Um, and the ones that are small, I make a note. They're small for a reason. It could be genetics. There are some that just cut down more, but if other ones are growing bigger and they're all the same line, then I would say they're probably a little less desirable if they're still kind of small. There might be a residual mite issue of virus, because the viruses take a while to clear, and they might have been healthy enough to make it through winter, but um, that's why you're going to want to do that mite count as early as you can in the spring, and assess what your varroa level is, because that's going to, if you can clean them up now, that's when there's not a lot of brood, it's a good time to do it. You can still do oxalic vapor. Um, I don't love talking about treatments. So you can look down between your frames and kind of assess how many are covered with bees. Um, you know, estimate the population in the top box. You can then lift and see if there's still bees down below. The bees are going to tend to work their way up right now. So they may not be in the bottom anymore. They may be up top. And then, as the weeks progress here, they'll start to go back down. They'll start to where they're almost like in both, and the circle's kind of in between both boxes, if you have multiple boxes. I have managed this year to overwinter in single deeps. It's the first year I tried it and it went fine. It went really well. So I can overwinter in any configuration now. I don't have a preference anymore. You're going to want to assess the weight. So right now it's kind of cold to be like going into your hives, but you can do your little finger lift. When you do pop the lid, that one time on a warm day, you want to look and see how much honey's in there. You can kind of see it on the top. See if you can try to learn to see how much honey is in there just by looking. But now you could do, if they're light on food, you could do that emergency feed mountain camp method that I mentioned. You could put a sugar patty on top, bee candy, fondant, winter patties, whatever you prefer. But the best one is the one that you can do like right now. So that's why I like the mountain camp. I don't want to spend time in the kitchen making more stuff. That's just me. But you gotta experiment, have fun with it, take good care of your bees how you want. So yeah, that moisture from the brood nest will soften that candy, and that will give them something to offset their feed that's in the hive, and keep them going. I wouldn't feed pollen yet. Um, if they're low on food and you give them pollen, they'll start to brood up and they will starve a lot faster because now they have all this population to feed. So yeah, I wouldn't do pollen yet, not until like the maple, until when the real pollen comes in, that's when you can do it, That's when I would say when nature makes it, then put it out. That way, there's days where it's like rained or something, there's less, they can go eat it. And then when it tapers off, they can, switch over to it. I open feed it. That's just because beetles. I don't like putting it on the hive. But in the spring, you don't have to worry about hive beetles so much. You could put a pollen patty on. And I know that there's people doing it already, and I've done it in the past now, early on. You just gotta be very careful and know that they could starve, make sure they got food. And they could also freeze trying to cover all that cluster instead of moving to their food. Because once they got that cluster, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to that food. They're stuck. Once they got that brood to cover. So I would definitely not recommend rearranging your hives yet, especially if you're new. Well, no matter what, you're not going to rearrange hives unless you're just adding some honey where there wasn't or something. So keep everything when you do start getting into it later in the spring. Let's just say if it's warm enough next month, later in the month when the evenings start getting warmer, you can start doing a full inspection if you're a newer beekeeper. And I say hoodie weather. is when you can really go into them. But you kind of feel if it's taking you a long time and there's a bunch of brood in there, then and it's cold out, that's not what you should be doing. If there's not much brood in there, but there's a lot of bees, and you're just looking at, then it's okay. But yeah, your first inspection, when you pull out every frame, put it back in the same place in the same direction. Don't be moving stuff around, breaking up that brood nest, because that's gonna kill them quick. You gotta keep that tight and in there for the whole spring. Once it starts warming up in the evenings, then you can start doing little things to it, but not until the evenings are warm and you really know what you're doing and you're doing it with a purpose. Um, so I can look for a queen in a small hive that has no brood really fast right now. And so if it's warm, I wait till the wind stops blowing and then I can look and see if it's got a queen. But that's not going to be your goal. Your goal is just look for larvae. You don't even have to really look for eggs, but if you see larvae and cat brood, the queen's probably there and they're fine. You can just close them up and move on. But if you don't see eggs, if you don't see larva or cat brood, then you're gonna need to look for eggs and you're gonna need to look for a queen, see if you need a queen. If you see multiple eggs, you probably lost your queen and it's a laying worker. If you see a lot of drones, that's a sign that you probably lost your queen, in one hive really early. So yeah, let me see where I'm at. So yeah, you just gotta be careful about chilling that brood. And you'll kind of know if it's cold and you're holding something that's warm and it's getting cold, you need to stick it back in and close it up pretty quick and wait until it warms up. You also don't want to be tearing up the honey and stuff right now that's in there. Because then the bees will be rolling around in it. They're more likely to start getting robbed. So just be careful right now. You just pop the lid, look, kind of assess how many bees are in there, how many frames they're covering, maybe write it on the lid. I could write 7 out of 10, that's a good hive. um, 3 out of 10. And then as I keep going, every time I'll write the date and how many frames they're using, and I can just see on top which hives are really booming and doing better. And then later you can go and equalize if you want. You can start taking some brood. Once it warms up, you can start taking some brood from the booming hives and moving it over to the weaker hives. Just make sure that those weaker hives aren't weak because they have a high mite load. You might have a hive that has a okay brood pattern, a perfect brood pattern. They're just small and they don't grow. And that's because they have these viruses. So you might need to um, clean them up. And then if they still don't grow, put a new queen in it. Some things else to look for in spring, once the evenings warm up a little bit and you can take more time in there, is check for diseases. Two really common diseases in the spring are, well, I don't say really common, but two more common are EFB and sac brood. EFB, not most people aren't going to get it, but sometime in your beekeeping career, you'll probably get it. It smells like stinky feet. The larvae in the cells look like little sacs. They're kind of like melted down. The bees don't pupate. And you're gonna want to take that little melted down bee pupa and you're gonna want to do what's called the rope test on it. You take a stick or a toothpick and you kind of swirl it around and pull out. And if it stretches long, like an inch, you have American foul brood. You need to call the inspector and have him help you with that. And because that's going to kill everything. But if it doesn't pass the rope test, you could get yourself like a little EFB test kit for $15. You could have the inspector come by with his test kit and they can test it. And then that'll tell you if it is EFB, he can help you get antibiotic treatment or give you If you have other hives, there's ways to help, clear it up naturally without antibiotics. But you have to have a vet. So if you have that, I would definitely say call Lewis. If you see a bunch of pupa with little black heads, I've only had one friend have this, but when she sent me a picture, I knew right away it was textbook. All the little pupas are white with little black heads. That's called sac brood. It's a stress. She We requeened it and we did some added some clean brood, and it went away for her. So yeah, but being on it is important, because you can fix that. And it's due to stress. It's just like maybe they had good food and then you had bad weather, and now they're like got to feed all these bees and they can't go outside and they can't poop and stuff, and so they get stressed and these things kind of happen. And it's okay. It's just be on top of it. Um, and it's also sometimes genetics. EFB supposedly can't be fixed with genetics, but um, I don't know. So yeah, spring check is vital and it foretells your future struggles. So a small little colony might be sick. Watch out for those diseases. What else? I kind of talked about all that. So you're going to want to learn what looks normal. You want a solid, flat brood pattern versus a pattern that looks like it got hit with a shotgun. Where there's a bunch of empties and they're not in any pattern. If you see like a rainbow of empties, that's a good thing. If you see like a spiral of empties, that's a good thing. They were just born. That's the cycle happening properly. If the hive doesn't grow, that's not normal. By April, you want a full hive. If it didn't grow to that, there's something wrong. Okay. So if something seems off, contact somebody. Once the maples start blooming, the bees will be bringing in pollen, and that's when the season really starts to hit. So I'm gonna put in this link here. Oh, yeah, I heard. Okay, so you guys are already getting pollen. Cool. Yeah. I'm gonna link you this chart. Ed Buchanan made it, was part of it. It's hard to find. It's on wncbees.org, but I can't, it's hard to find. So use the link. There's also a link to it on our Burnsville Beekeepers Facebook page. This is the chart, a flow chart. It tells you every month what's blooming. And it also tells you when your flows are, and it tells you when when to watch out for robbing. It tells you what to watch for and what's going to come in and when. And then what I do is I take this chart and I watch like when the sourwood blooms. Then I write it down if it's a week ahead or a week later. And every year I have my chart printed out and I make my notes on it. So I have a record every year of when our flows are to refer back to, so I can prepare better in the future. White or cream color? So yeah, so if you guys are getting pollen, they're brooding up already. So yeah, right now you need to really keep an eye on your food. And as spring progresses, especially if you got the pollen coming in, they're gonna start burning through their food a little faster. So don't go on vacation in April. Or if you are gonna go on vacation, make sure they got a lot of food. Don't pull that emergency feed off and think that it's fine. The weather's been great. We have this thing where February, March, or April can either be beautiful or awful, and it's always different. One year February will be beautiful and March will be awful. Next year March will be beautiful, and the next year April. And it's just the way it is. So just know that it's unpredictable. Even though it seems awesome, you go on vacation and then there's a snowstorm, and or one hive runs out of food and they start robbing out your other hive. and then you lose both hives, and that's really sad. Um, so I told you about taking notes on top. That's my preference. Once you have 4 frames of brood, buildup is really underway, I would say. There are such things to watch out for, like now with the pollen flow. I'm gonna call it a pollen flow. That's what the maple season is. There is nectar with the maple, but and some people can actually harvest it. But for most people, it becomes where you just get sheets of pollen, and it's beautiful, all these different beautiful colors. But you can get what's called pollen bound, where it's just like solid frame of pollen, and it almost becomes like a wall. So you might put that in the freezer, and give them, a frame with less pollen, or let them just refill the next frame. Just so that they can continue expanding and not just hit that wall. You'd think they would convert it right into pollen, into bees, the pollen into bees, but if there's so much, it becomes more of a wall. And then in the summer you can get honey bound, which causes swarming. Let's see what else. I talked about that. So 7 or 8 frames of bees coming out of spring is a nice colony. I told you they should be full by April, especially if you're feeding. If you're feeding, you should expect swarms like the first week of April. By the second week of April, you need to start looking in your trees, all your apple trees for sure, every day, if you've been feeding, because that's just what the gods want. And that's what the bees want. They're going to start splitting. It's just, that's their desire, their innate desire. So if they're healthy and they've got food, they're going to try to, and even if they're not fully jammed all the way to the walls, if you've been feeding, they might still try to swarm on you, because they're just like, everything is perfect right now. So just in that first, second week of April, really pay attention. And it's going to continue on. Yours might hit a little later if you weren't really feeding, or depending on how your weather's been. So yeah, in the spring, and at that point you can start equalizing to help prevent swarming a little bit. You're not going to ever prevent it 100%. Doesn't mean you can't try. But I prefer splitting and things like that. Don't just you don't want a stagnant hive. It's good to make splits. Don't be afraid of splitting. That's what you need. That's how you don't have to be a slave to, people who can make bees. So I told you they move up and they'll expand. There's a danger to swapping your boxes. But when it works really well. So I would wait later in the spring. If they are still up in the top and the weather looks warm enough, you can stick them on the bottom, put the empty one on top, and let them move up. They'll expand a little faster than if you would have just left it alone. But it's also a little more risky. If you just left them alone, they would just move back into that bottom box. But that bottom box kind of stays empty like most of the year. So eventually you might want to still end up sticking it up. You'll figure it out. I told you put the frames back in how you found them, especially early in the spring, unless you know what you're doing later in the spring and you have a reason. Same position, same direction. I'm almost done. Swarm traps. You want to start putting them up in March. Swarm traps is a whole discussion. You could spend a whole year on swarm traps, but just put 1 or 2 about 1,000 feet from your apiary. It's just an empty beehive or an empty wooden box with a volume of 20 liters or more. So it could be a nuke that you're not using. It could be a 10 frame deep. It could be a double nuke. They really like those. Small entrance, and preferably facing southeast. You can put some wax in it, like a sheet of comb, a little bit of a lemongrass essential oil. That Swarm Commander is amazing. It's worth the money if you can afford it. Yeah, I will hit that, Julie. So the swarm traps will help you when you don't see those swarms in your trees, or when they're 20, 40 feet up in a tree, so you don't lose them. So they don't go into your neighbor's house, chimney, whatnot, or their empty beehive from their dead out. So putting a couple of them is just insurance against losing your own bees. You're at work when they swarm. They will move into your swarm traps. I find the first swarm doesn't, but after that they do, if they're properly set up. And you can look into Tom Seeley. He has all the information about what a swarm trap is and how to set it up. Set up so it's easily retrievable. Don't put it 20 feet up in the air where you're gonna have to bring it down with bees inside, and it might be heavy and it's harder to see with your eyes. You want to be able to see it easily, to see if there's bees in it, so you can get it as soon as they move in, hopefully like shortly after they move in. You can also set them around town to catch good genetics. So the queen that the line that I breed from came from, I've caught a ton of swarms, like wild swarms from all around town. But this one, it happened to be where there used to be a queen breeder. It just always outperformed in every way, shape. So I've been working off that line, and it's worked out well, and it's actually done better than other higher pedigree lines, because it's locally adapted, locally mated, and things like that. So when you swap boxes, you got to be careful, because you don't want to put that brood on the bottom. When that brood's like up in the middle or up in the top box, it's a little warmer up there. Then they're not right in the way of the draft. So if you swap your boxes and you're putting that brood on the floor, they could get cold, they could get chilled. That air coming in the entrance is they didn't put those bees there, they put them up here. They wanted them here, not here. So now you're going to chill that brood, and they're going to be working harder, and they're going to be like they're going to be moving somewhere else. So you're manipulating when you do that. So you just want to be aware of what the nighttime temperatures are. You just basically like look for no freezes, then it depends how booming. If it's a big hive, well then it's then they can keep warm. But if it's small and they were all the way up there and you just jam, you just want to be aware of the temperatures and what you're gonna impose on them by doing that. So I'm about to my conclusion here. So I had a come to Jesus meeting with myself this winter about who I am and what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. I want to be somebody who's kind and humble and doesn't fake the funk. There's a lot of like internet experts out there. It's very competitive, but like I was saying, the market is large. Like there's room for everyone who gains these skills. It takes time. It takes humility, but you can do it. And you can be successful, and you can make money at it, or you can just make honey for your friends and family. But you can be successful if you can be humble. I think that's a big part of it, and that's who I want to be. I got a little burned out last year. I did a lot of queens, like a lot. Well, for me, I did 25 queens a week, and I took on this endeavor of doing it every single week. I have 25 queens ready for sale, guaranteed, taking orders, and it was wonderful. I met a bunch of amazing people, but I got burned out towards the end. Constantly on the phone, answering the phone, texting, and like trying to, in the evenings, instead of being home with my family, I'm emailing, making sure I didn't miss anything. So obviously if you're new, you're not going to have that problem, but do what you can handle. Don't try to be the best, like just do what you think you can actually do to take good care of your bees. There will be next year, you will continue to grow. So that's, think of the bees. And so I'm going to actually shrink my operation. I'm going to grow like I did last year, but then I'm going to sell it and shrink it so I can take better care of the bees for the rest of the season, because spring is great. Everything's booming and growing. You know, summer's honey and pulling honey, but then it's time to take care of their health. You need to be doing those mite counts. And for me to do mite counts on 200 hives is daunting. So I'm gonna sell, I'm gonna shrink, and just have what I can handle so I can take better care and I can overwinter better, and not sacrifice bees, you know. Last year I did a very good job of mite counts and and treating. And I also think something came through my apiary this year, but I did really well, and I think I can do it again. But because I got burned out, I took a job with the census, and you know, just to do other things, and then going back into it, it was already too late. I was already suffering losses. So just that little lapse um, caused detriment to the health of my bees, and I'm not too proud to say that. You know, like first I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to be great at this. But part of it is being humble and learning from everything. Also, I can't be everything to everybody. So, you know, you want to do bees and you want to help everybody. And that's something that every beekeeper has. Like, you have this amazing skill you just learned and you want to share it. And that's great. Please do that. Like, take on, especially younger beekeepers, take them on, help them, invite them to your apiaries. I think of people like Sarah McKinney. When when I remember when she gave me her phone number, she was like, "Don't give this to anybody." And she is somebody who, I mean, spent all her time like giving to our community, teaching, you know, and having the store available. And so, you know, I think of people like her, like Brian Fisher, like my mentor Lee Knott. There's a guy, Burton Beasley. I haven't met, but they give a lot of themselves, and it's very admirable. So just I guess, just remember that there's other people out there who get paid to help, like Lewis, or there's people who are retired. So ask those people when possible for help first. Always read and research before asking questions if you can. Like, Google's there, books are there. I have a lot of frequently asked questions on my website. So if you want to buy a queen from me, I'm more than happy to discuss it. And where I end up talking to people the most is when it's an emergency queen situation. Don't let me get off the phone with you without asking you a million questions. Because I'm trying to figure out if you really need that emergency queen. But first, go on my website, read the frequently asked questions, because that's going to help you know what to look for, to see if you really need a queen. And then when I start asking you a million questions, you're going to know a little bit better how to answer me. If you have a question that's unrelated to a purchase, you know, reach out to club members, reach out to Lewis. So I think everybody should have that come to Jesus meeting with themselves at the end of every year and kind of figure out who you are and what you want to be. And I'm sure you all do it anyway, because beekeepers are brilliant people. A couple other things I have, if you want, I don't know if Seth's still here, but I have a YouTube, just look up Moral Bees and it finally shows up my channel. I have enough views finally. I have the Successful Apiary is an hour and 20-minute presentation on all the things I wish I had known when I was starting. That will help you. And there's also a podcast, my mentor Lee Knott, Beekeeping at Five Apple Farm. It's great. She's got bee school, and if you look at kind of like, if you listen to them the same time as last year, it's like she's telling you what you need to know for that time of the season. I said I did go back to that. What's the link for the chart? I'm gonna click it again. Let me see if it works. Page not found. Okay, hold on. So that's not good. It's hard to find. So I do want to make sure you have it here properly. Oh, you know what? I might have been texting the wrong person. It says I was Texting Keith. There we go. You're gonna have to copy. Oh, there we go. Now it works. Okay. That thing, it's invaluable. Please make sure you get that chart. If you're not familiar with it, it will help you off the bat immensely. It tells you when everything's supposed to start flowing, and you can adjust. This is for 2,500 feet elevation, but I found that with global warming or whatever you want to call it, I'm at a higher elevation, or it's perfect. It's like right on point. Even if you're at a higher elevation. Just remember, this was made like, I think like 15 years ago at least. Things have warmed up. I think that's the end of my presentation. If everybody's still awake. And questions are always the hardest for me. I always think of better answers later. But if you have questions, feel free to ask.
Michelle, there was a couple of questions there. Said, what is you've already got that one.
Oh yeah, I looked
when
at
you
them,
switch spots
yeah, I answered that one.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, just make sure you don't put the brood on the floor, and especially make sure that screen bottom's in there, the board, if you have a screen bottom, because if the brood's right there by the entrance and you get cold nights, you're going to be chilling some of them. Yeah. And somebody else might have a better answer than me. It's part of me. It's just the way it is. Okay. Anybody else who has a comment?
There's one to ask for your website, YouTube, podcasts.
Yeah. So Moral
if you could put that in the chat.
Moralbees.com. And that's, it gave you the link to my free website. But yeah, if you just put moralbees.com, it comes up. There we go. And then my YouTube, it's some long chain of letters. You have to have like enough subscribers to get your own name for a short link, I think. So you just go to YouTube and type in Moral Bees, and my channel and my videos do finally just pop right up. Yeah, I was going to link you to that Hive tool. Let me put that in there. JERO is the name brand of the Hive tool. It's the best Hive tool. And you can get that on Amazon, or you can get it from Jero. But I think with the shipping and stuff, it makes more sense to get it this way. This is a great gift. Whoever you buy this for will love you forever. And great gift would be that tool bag with your Hive tool in it, and the windproof lighter. So there's the Hive tool. I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for giving us a presentation today. And we're grateful for your expertise. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. Our next meeting will be in March, and Keith will be lining us up a speaker for that one. Just be looking for Bill's email, and we will fill you in on who that will be. It will. I'm sorry, I'm getting back feed here. But we will be doing the Zoom meeting next month as well. And so try to get some folks to come out and be with us in this Zoom format. Bill, do you have anything?
No, Michelle, thank you for doing this. This was great. And I hate that the internet was a little bit wanky tonight, but I think we got through it okay. Appreciate it much.
Yes, thank you. And also next month, we're going to talk about swarms and splits. So she segued just great into what we're going to do next month.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and look forward to seeing you in the March meeting.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me.